like to welcome Len Simon, Duke Law School class of 1973, to read his letter about Durwood Zaelke, Duke Law School class of 1972.
Dear Durwood, I remember our time together at Duke. We checked footnote citations for the Law Journal, but also did some more pleasant things. We played a little tennis, but I think that might have been later. We bumped into each other a few times in the 70s or 80s, I think once in LA and a few times in DC. Since that time, we've barely seen each other, but I have followed you in the press. Every 5 years or so, I would see an article in the New York Times about some important environmental project or breakthrough, or a promotion you got to a more prominent role in protecting our environment. When I saw the announcement that Duke was looking for nominations of alumni who would change the world, I immediately thought of you. Then, however, not being an expert on the environment, not being positive precisely what your contributions were, I checked with Brian Murray, a professor at the Nicholas School, who I had met the year before and had become a friend. Brian said, absolutely yes, go for it, and later told me that he had double-checked his work with some people, environmental profs at the law school, who wholeheartedly agreed with him and with my instincts that you should be honored. I know enough to know that our planet is warming at an alarming rate. I also know that business as usual will not work. The planet we leave to generations who come after us may be unrecognizable and far less habitable if we don't do something about it. And I know that we must all do our part to slow global warming and give our ozone time to repair. I gather from what I've read over the years and what I've learned more recently in this process that my instincts were correct and that you've changed the course and impact of international environmental law throughout your illustrious career. I'm very thankful for the world that you're preserving for me, my children, and future generations of citizens of the world. You've done a lot. In 2016, you spearheaded the Kigali Amendments, which created a phase-out schedule for the super greenhouse gas called hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs for short. HFCs, as you know, are one of the biggest threats to our environment. Every country in the world is being called on to ratify the Kigali Amendment, which will reduce the HFC issue by more than 80% over the next 30 years. 100 countries have ratified to date, with 95 more to go. So I guess we could say that you're more than halfway to saving the world. During your early career, you helped the Department of Justice develop a strong foundation for U.S. environmental law, most notably in working to reduce ozone depletion. You went on to co-author the standard English language textbook on international environmental law and policy, founded the International Environmental Law Program at American University in Washington, and co-founded the Program on Governance for Sustainable Development at UC Santa Barbara. As president and founder of the Institute for Governance and Sustainable Development in Washington and Paris, you have ushered in fast mitigation strategies to protect the climate, including strategies to reduce short-lived climate pollutants like ozone, methane, and the HFCs. Let's also not forget that you co-founded the two most important international environmental law NGOs, FIELD and the Center for International Environmental Law. So some research has confirmed what I thought. You're behind a great deal of environmental activity and success. When people look back at our environmental history 100 years from now, humankind will be indebted to you and a few other leading environmental activists. They will be thankful, as I am now, that the planet is on its way to being safer, healthier, and likely happier. And although we're both getting older, I know that you are still at it. I picked up my newspaper only a few weeks ago and saw an op-ed piece about global warming, authored by you, another gentleman, and my local congressman and friend, Scott Peters, Duke class of 1980. Keep at it, please. We are all Blue Devils, but I think you can lay claim to being a green angel at the very same time. Durwood, thanks very much for all you do.
Well, how very, very nice of Len to have such a good memory and to submit a nomination. He's one of the stars of our class, one of the most successful lawyers and a great supporter of the law school, as you know, along with his wife, Candy. And I'm honored to have him nominate me. I'm honored to receive the award. When I listened to the recitation, my first thought is, I'm getting old. Okay, so it's a long career, and you just remind me of the different things, the different phases I've been through. But it's all led up to today's work, trying to slam on the brakes of climate change, specifically by going after the short-lived super climate pollutants. That's what Congressman Scott Peters and I wrote about in our op-ed just a couple of weeks ago. And I've just finished a new book on this with a couple of colleagues, Alan Miller and Steve Anderson, called Cut Super Climate Pollutants Now. It'll be out in a couple of weeks. And I'm thrilled to be able to work with the Biden administration, with John Kerry back as the climate envoy, with Gina McCarthy as the domestic czar, with the wonderful team of people they brought back together, including Melanie Nakagawa and Rick Duke, not related to this Duke enterprise, but nevertheless a Duke, and many more who understand the imperative of fast mitigation. And I think I learned at Duke, what did I learn? I learned that I was in a privileged position as a lawyer who got to go to a great law school and learned enough to launch a career that put me in contention to ask questions about the environment, indeed about the universe, how it was changing, why it was changing, and then to help me develop the tools to answer those questions using law, using the power of law, both law that we could create, as I helped do at the Department of Justice back in the day with President Jimmy Carter, and as I was able to do through litigation for a decade with the Sierra Club Legal Defense Fund in Alaska and in California and in Washington, D.C. And then as I was able to do with international environmental law. I'm thrilled for the award. Thank you to the Duke community. Thank you to Len. And I hope soon we'll be able to have a drink in San Diego.